Welcome, welcome, welcome to my living room. My name is Lana Labonte, and I am here to uplift, support, inspire, and hopefully that empowers you to be the best version of you you're meant to be. I also sting people back to consciousness to literally put the crown back on to reign in the power of their own life, to remind you of what it is you deeply desire on a soul level, and to reconnect you with your intuitive nature. Your into me, I see, the intuition that is naturally inside of you. Instead of checking out and outsourcing your power. In fact, we're here to return, resource. Think about the words, the languaging. It's all there, everything you need to know. You want source to be your source, which means you need to go back within and recognize how resourceful you truly are. You are full of source. You are source. And that the languaging, the duplicity, the word source is in the word sorcery. When you take that and you are aware that you have a word like source that can turn into, I wrote this down earlier, and I think it's very important to remember, if you don't connect to your source, sorcery will prevail, such as blackmail and black magic spells. It is the, hi Mish, how are you? It is the color of law, the sorcery. If you don't tap into your source and you outsource, it turns into sorcery. Because they will infiltrate, they will fill you in, channeling messages, programming you with their agenda, what it is they would like you to do. They will influence you. They will manipulate you to their will with their swords and their sorcery spells. The finger, it actually is very powerful. And this particular finger is the finger of Jupiter, which is all about expansion. So when you think back to when you were a child, and of course there's the pointing a finger at someone, blame, shame game. When you point a finger, you are wielding a form of a wand. So we are always casting our spells with the stories that we tell. So if you accuse someone and you point that finger at them, what you don't realize is what you accuse the other of comes right back at you 3 times. It's like the boomerang effect. That which you judge of another is actually a self-judgment. Because if we didn't spot it, we wouldn't, we spot it because we got it. So when you recognize something in someone, and you're able to see it, also consider, if you can see it, you must be it. The air finger desires lungs, right side is male, yes, and the left side is female. This is the giving, this is the receiving. But how receptive are we, and are we aware of our full power, our source? Every breath you take is the spirit, because God loved you so much. He breathed life into you every moment. So every breath you take is literally the spirit, the inspiration. The inspiration is you taking spirit within. So when you inspire, you're inhaling the spirit. When you expire, that's when you let it all out. You exhale. And of course, when you stop inhaling, then you will fully exhale and expire. So I'm going to say, I'm sorry I've been gone, but I checked out because I had my own things to check into. And, life happens, and I do have a lot of information to share. But today I want to talk about the void. I want to talk about boredom and how that correlates to the void, and how it's very important to recognize we're here to do things smarter, not harder. But we were taught the hard way. And that when you can unravel and you can return to the root cause of all your issues, like when you bring the dark to the light, it's no more scary than it was before. Because whatever lurks in the darkness, when you bring it into the light, it's not quite so scary anymore. It becomes softer. It becomes illuminated. It becomes, oh, hello. Thank you for recognizing me. When you bring things out of the dark and into the light, that's what allows you to build a courage muscle, to become more resilient, to recognize it doesn't have power over you. The more you're willing to confront it, the less likely it will have power over you, that you won't be afraid of it. Fear. Face everything and rise. False evidence appearing real. So many different ways you can break that one down. But fear essentially is just knowing something is unknown and thinking the worst case scenario. It's unfamiliar. Ooh, never been there before, right? And so when we are here to go through this life, we get a little stagnant. We get caught along our path. We think, oh my gosh, I had this experience and now I have to put all these judgments and I have to put all these labels upon it, instead of recognizing it for what it is. But going back to the beginning, scripture. Look at that, scripture. Scripture is just a story, and you get to script your story. Taking the words and really going to the root of them and really hearing beyond what you think they mean, learning that there is duplicity, that there is sorcery within the languaging. One you can wield under your source and your power, and one that can be wielded over you. That languaging is very important. The more you start listening beyond just the word, because in the beginning there was the word, but before the word there was the breath, the true spirit that breathed life into everything. We didn't need words. Back before, when it was just spirit, this is what they don't tell us. Before there was spirit, and spirit was what gave life to everything. You didn't need words. It was just felt. It was intuitive. It was natural. It was nurturing. It was nature. And then when the word came and the scriptures were written, stories started. And it changed everything. And then books. Now we've got a technology to not remember, but to outsource and place it in a book. We always get to choose. But choosing your words wisely also allows you to write your life story instead of being irresponsible, claiming to be the victim of someone else's story. So every story we tell is usually to validate what it is that we experienced. And it's not necessarily for the other that we tell the story, but it's for ourselves to make sense of our story, to make sense of our lives, to make sense of our experiences. Like, here's all these things that happened to me. I'm speaking from experience because I myself learned through these experiences that I was the victim of this one or that one, because look what they did. They did this to me. Okay, people do some shitty things in life and not necessarily, conscious, and sometimes it is conscious. But it's more important, how do we respond? How do we react to those situations? Are we coming from the place of, oh, woe is me, I'm now a victim of this story? The reality of this life is to be the victor, is to stop outsourcing your power. So when you tell a story that is disempowering, meaning you are creating yourself as the victim in the story and proceeding to give the power over to the villain or the perpetrator or whoever it is in your story that you have created as the holder of your power. When we tell a story, it's usually to elevate or to disempower. And we have to be very careful because, again, that is where your power lies. It's in the word. It's in the stories you tell are the castings of the spell. It's the reinforcing. It's the maintaining. So the more we tell a story, one that empowers or disempowers, the more it reinforces our lives. So when we utilize certain words that we were taught over the course of our lives, we are also giving those words power. Just like they say a person's name, when you say someone's name back to them, you are actually giving them power. You are uplifting them by saying their name. So, when you say it affectionately, it's even more, that feels lovely. And it's beautiful to hear someone say your name. Believe it or not, your soul, your heart wants to hear your loved one echo the sound of your name. It sounds funny, but it's true. Say my name, say my name. It's a true thing. So really, it's all energy. And in the energy imprint and blueprint that is imposed through language, which is vibration, which is energy, which is also coming from the heart space, the more we can tap into our intuitive space, that's when we'll really reach the true source of our power. Because that's where we all create from. And the void. This is so cool because, first off, I was having conversations all this past week. I'm in my own little bubble. I know life is happening for everyone. Everybody has something going on right now, right? So imagine that no matter what's going on in your life, what's most important is how present you are in your own life. That from the time we're born, we're really taught that life is hard. This is the way we do it. It has to be hard. Even I was reflecting on school and how I used to like math, and then I had really horrible teachers, and as a result of having horrible teachers, they taught the hard way. Does anybody remember this? They taught you how to figure out programs the hard way, and mathematics, and actually specifically mathematics, money, and economics. They didn't make it easy. They didn't teach you what you needed to know. They taught you the long form and how to do it the hard way. And I'm over here going, but why did the Japanese teach it the easy way? Why? Because it's a setup. Because if you're already anticipating the hard way, everything in your life is being played out as a result of that baseline. So if you've been taught at an early age, you have to figure it out the hard way. Nothing comes without hard work. That if you have already established it has to be hard, it can't be easy, then you're not going to see the solution because you're constantly looking for the problem. Make sense? Does that resonate with anybody? Let me know in the comments. What is it in your life that you feel is hard? And maybe it comes from an old story that you adopted because of the way that you were programmed and indoctrinated simply with the indoctrination education system. That's a good one right there. If it's hard, then you're gonna always expect hard. If you are solution oriented, you were taught to find the solution, the easy way. See, this whole idea that, nothing should be easy because then that you don't earn it. And it's like, what the word earn, you can have the word earn as in you die, you get put in an urn, or you can be in an earning space. They both sound the same and they both carry that funky energy. You don't need to earn. What you need to do is be, and to recognize the solution is always within you. And that we were taught externally, everything around us has to be hard, but the reality is there's solutions in everything. And if you're always looking for the problem, you always find a problem. But when you shift your mindset, you shift your focus, where attention goes, energy flows, to finding the solution, to knowing there is a solution. Again, this is a world of duality and polarity. Wherever there's a problem, there's a solution right there with it. It's up to you to be focused and to be mindful and present enough and aware to be able to, oh, look, I don't see the problem. I don't even see a problem. I just go straight to the solution. It literally is a mind shift. It's an energy shift. Because when you've lived all your life with problems, always finding what's wrong versus what is right, then that's where your life has created the grooves, right? The deeper the groove, the harder to move. That's addiction. That is actually a lot of people's behavioral patterns and even belief systems. We are the most addicted to our belief systems. Why? Because we never confront the stories in our head. And every thought is what the mind utilizes to construct a story, which becomes a belief system. So when you have a belief system, you have to confront the story that underlies it back to the incident that created it. You have to go back to the root cause. If your childhood was challenging, you had traumas, you had all sorts of dramas, or even if it was delightful and it was easygoing and you had all the support you needed, those shaped your beliefs. Those impact the way your life unfolds. And for many of us, I don't think there's a person out there that doesn't have something traumatic that happened to them, even if you lived the lush life or whatever you want to call it. We all have our versions of what was traumatic to us. So we can never dismiss another person's pain. But what's most important is not dismissing our own pain too. And we're not here to compare ourselves. This is the biggest travesty in humanity, is the idea that you need to compare yourself, because that goes back to the feeling of worthiness. The idea that you need to prove yourself worthy of love. And that by doing that, you have to compare yourself to the worst case scenarios and play the martyr. Oh my gosh, all these horrible things happened to me. Yes, but you're alive. And can you see the silver lining in that? And can you see and have gratitude for the fact that that shaped your life and it made you appreciate? Does it? Does it make you appreciate what you have today? Because you can live in the victimhood mindset. You can live in the victimhood story. But is that really what you want? The only time we stay in these old stories is because it is serving at least 3 of the basic human needs. And that's what constitutes addiction. So yes, but belief systems, your BS, and you got to call that out. If you don't, somebody else will. So if your story is that, blah, 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 blah. You don't even need an example. But people are serving you by giving you attention. Oh, you poor thing. Maybe you're getting a gift out of it. You're getting connection. You feel loved because of the connection. And then the certainty of knowing that people will feel bad for me and they'll do things for me. Like I don't have to prove myself because, oh, woe was me. Like the stories can go infinitely crazy, or you can take the reins, literally the reins, or literally your crown, and you can reign over your life. But it's the story you want to live versus the story that you have been living on repeat, like a record player. So this conversation that I've been having around, here we were taught the hard way in mathematics, money, and economics. It's like, why did it have to be so challenging? Why is it the Japanese, they put a bunch of lines together and you just crisscross and oh my gosh, like YouTube University. I learned that, I don't know how many years ago, but I was like, that's messed up. That I was set up in math in school, unable to see the easy way because they taught you the hard way. And then that set me up to look at things and always look for the hard way to find the solution. Like I'm over here going, talk about a psychological mind fuck, because that's pretty much what that is. So the system is set up to make you work hard because you don't deserve the easy way, because you got to prove yourself. You got to grind. Nothing comes without hard work. All these old sayings that make you go, ugh, that's icky. Really? Did people really believe that shit? Clearly they did, because we got a lot of traumatized adults who still think that's the way. I think it should be illegal not to have a garden too, right? Especially for the butterflies and the bees and the trees, you know? This, the beauty of nature, getting out in it. So the acceptance of hard challenges and struggles has been built in and programmed into our entire way of thinking and believing, but that's not the truth. And when you wrap your head around the fact that your truth is within you and you stop listening to the external noise, that it's all a distraction, the fabric of the matrix reality, matrix, reality. This is what we are here to disrupt, dismantle, and reprogram in ourselves. We're not here to do it the hard way. It's like, do things smarter, not harder. I created a song about that, actually. It was silly in my car one day. I'm like, gotta do things smarter, do them less harder. You gotta give up the fight and show them your light. You know, like, you can create all silly stuff. I mean, really, it's about tapping into our truth and learning to trust ourselves again. I mean, that right there is the key. Whenever someone you feel has wronged you, again, victim, you outsourced your power. When someone has wronged you, you have to forgive yourself, because it was you who you distrusted. You probably had a gut feeling. You probably knew something deep down inside, and you gave them a chance, and you think that it was their fault. But the reality is you just didn't trust your intuition. You wanted to give them benefit of the doubt despite what you felt. There's a difference. The mind overruled the heart, because the heart will feel, ooh, something's not right. The body, all of your cells are like, hey, we got an alert going on here. That's why it's a GPS. Your body is a GPS. It's like, hello, we got a problem here. Can we tune into this and just feel? As opposed to the mind that's like, oh, no, we have to give them the benefit of the doubt, because that's a story in my program. That's what I was taught to do, to think of everybody but myself. You know, you can go on and on and on. You can break this down. Everybody has to do it for themselves. I've had to do it. But ultimately, you got to shut out that distraction, the mental chatter, because the mind will take you out if you do not take it under your control. That's why mindset is so important. Mindfulness, meditation. Meditation is not all fun and games. It is sitting down and just being present, listening to what goes on. And yeah, there's a lot of chatter. Oh, I have so much trouble meditating. Well, guess what? There ain't a person that didn't have a little mind chatter going on. But sometimes it's there to make you aware. That's the point. It's there to make you aware. If you don't know what your unconscious thoughts, stories, and programs that are running on in the background, again, like a record player going on and on and on, then how can you change them? Because they're unconsciously running the show. And meditation is allowing you to see what it is going on below the surface. When you peel away the layers, as we say, peeling away the layers of an onion, that's why sometimes you're crying. You're like, where the hell did that come from? It came from an old story that you adopted, whether it was your parents or an experience you had. And the mind just lodged it in there and said, okay, we're going to remember this because this was really hard to deal with and we never really resolved it. We never really worked it out, but we just kind of want to hold on to it instead of letting it go, even though we want to let it go. Like, this is the crazy mind, right? Hold on, I'm trying to think. Yeah, right. I'm trying not to think. Don't think about it. Crazy. But this is the thing. Have you noticed how easily influenced and suggestible you truly are by the noise all around you? Like, my last video was the power of suggestion. Think about it. We are so suggestible, and we don't even recognize how easily suggestible we are. We hear something on repeat, but we don't realize we've been hearing it so often. It's like a song. How did you recognize the lyrics of the song? You heard it enough times, and then you just started singing it, and you didn't think about, how did I remember the words? It's no different than watching TV or a movie or this or that is subtly, subliminally programming you with ideas. Oh, I'm going to go watch a movie. Yeah. And then I'm going to have a dream and I'm going to go, wow, that was crazy. What? I don't understand why I had that funky dream. Power of suggestion, just saying. So anyway, so when you have all these external factors, this is why you can't even hear the whispers of your intuitive heart and soul. There is more below the surface than most people realize. And the fear of sitting with it is often greater than the ability to do it. The idea that most people, I know this from my experience, I can't sit alone with my thoughts because they're really, really bad. And I think a lot of bad thoughts about myself. How true is that for some of you? That you have demoting, disempowering thoughts. That as much as you want this, you don't give yourself permission because you don't feel worthy of it. So that's what we call promoting and demoting fighters, you know, these belief systems. And I learned this in Date with Destiny with Anthony Robbins years ago, that you have to recognize you may want this, but you got to get to the root of why it is you might not have achieved it yet. It could be, oh no, I know I feel worthy. I know I want this. But deep down, there's something in you that says, no, you don't. You don't feel like you're worthy of it. No, you don't deserve it. You haven't done enough for it. There's all of this mind chatter that you're not listening to because you're afraid to hear it. That's what meditation is truly about, is actually going and sitting down and going, okay, what do I need to hear now? What is it I need to confront? And it's like, then the story comes up. Or maybe your mind tries to take you into the things you need to do for the day. It's like, just keep bringing it back to the breath. Keep confronting the fact that, oh, look at you. You wanted to escape this moment. You want to go elsewhere. You're not being present. Every time your mind tries to take you elsewhere, you need to reel it back in. That's the whole point of training the brain. Training the mind is meditation. Yeah, it's not always fun. But the more you do it, that's building up the resilience within you. That's also calibrating your nervous system, because the more you can bring yourself back to center, to the present moment, utilizing the breath, the less you're going to lose your shit out in the world. This is the point of meditation, is that you're able to observe. Yeah, you were able to observe that how many times the mind wanted to rush off into the future, not be present. Every time you notice that observation, that witnessing, that is reprogramming your nervous system. That is reprogramming you. That is shifting your awareness, your consciousness, and your mindset. Every single time you do it, 5 minutes a day, 2 minutes a day, whatever it is, even just take a moment. Just be present. Breathe. Notice what you feel. Feel the air on your skin, the sounds around you, the smells you're smelling, the taste you're tasting. What does it feel like to be in your skin? It's the little things to bring you back to the present that also allow you to be present everywhere during your different stages of life, through the course of your day. It's the thoughts that get in the way. But until you can reel it in, you got to be really in, and you got to go all in. None of this, maybe once or twice a week. You actually have to create habits. You have to create those promoting and disciplined and dedicated and devoted to you, your heart and your soul. When you do that for you, you also create this ripple effect, and it affects those around you. That the calmer you become after you become more into it, the into me I see, intuition, being present with yourself, the more you actually exercise that courage muscle of, okay, let me listen. It wasn't so bad. I got some really good insight. Even before bed, that's a great way to go to bed, is just, reflecting on the day and all the things, and writing down in a journal the things that went well, the things that you want to improve upon, just a gratitude, just the simplicity of being present and reminding yourself of what worked and what felt good. And yeah, there might be some things that didn't, but you know what? You make a note. I plan to improve upon this. It's not there to shame or blame yourself. It's just a reflection. Don't get caught up in the the superfluous, the crappy stuff, like the mundane, because believe it or not, there's so much more. Just like I said, you can find a problem, but you can also find a solution before there ever exists a problem. You can completely supersede it, not even have to deal with it, if you're already in the solution mindset, or oriented to, oh, look at that, it's a beautiful day outside, I think I'll go to the beach. Oh, I have something on my schedule, I can fit it in. It's all about adapting. It's an adaptive mindset. So I'm just here to facilitate your intuitive nature, your soul self, reconnecting you back to where you really find source. Because you are resourceful. You are full of source within you. It's just a matter of tapping back into it. Back to the void. The question I have, are you a creator or are you a consumer? Because this determines how boredom and the void affects you in your life. I actually love the void. It's one of my favorite things, but it's also very challenging too, because I recognize that what you avoid is actually what you create. Think about this. People, again, meditation is a great example with the boredom thing. All of what is created in this world came from the void, just like the womb of the mother. The seed was planted, and within the womb, life was created. It's no different than the void. Matrix is also another word for the womb. It is also another word for the void. So we can use that other term of the matrix. Oh, we're living in a matrix. Yes. Duplicity in the languaging again. There are the matrix, the tricks they're playing. And then there is the matrix that is the void, that is the womb. That we, when you wake up to it, have the power to create in and create from. So imagine this. It's not just an empty space, but it feels that way. And often, as implied, this void has an empty space. Many will think, using the brain, using the mind, rather than feeling, assuming that they're feeling empty and need to fill that space, to fill the void with something external. This is very common. This is part of the sorcery of this world, is that because of everything has to be hard. The moment you have a quiet moment, the moment you come to your stillness, you're like, whew, wow, I'm not used to being still. This is why it's important to meditate too, because if you don't actually know what it's like to sit still, because you're always on the go, busy, in the stress, fight, flight, freeze or fawn method mode, you're in chronic stress and chronic busy mode of do, go, not be. You will think you're in boredom. So you need to practice stillness to appreciate the stillness when you have it and not run away from it. That out of boredom, most people will consume to fill the space with meaninglessness, to fill themselves because they think they feel empty. Instead of, see, this is the thing, the void is where you think you feel empty, but it's really a place for you to create from. Most will assume they're bored, need to fill that empty space rather than seeing the opportunity to create from it. Again, planting the seed rather than filling it up, filling your cup. This is a really huge addiction in humanity and society that I personally, I can speak from my experience because I know what that's like. It's like, oh, I don't have anything to do right now. Can I just be? Can I be doing it? Like, this is all an inside job. You can assume I'm bored. But you know what? This is one of the things I sat with earlier. I was like, okay, I was going to go live yesterday. Had all my notes out and I was all ready. And then I decided I'm going to go take a walk in nature. And I enjoyed that. I just relaxed. I let myself just have yesterday to relax. Because life has been life and I've been lifing a lot. So, and it was perfectly timed, and it's ironic because it goes with the theme of It wasn't that I was bored and I wanted to be here with you. But at the same time, I realized I needed to give myself a break. As much as I was ready, there was more to come. So I was writing earlier, boredom is an ironic way to dismiss the human's potential to create from a restful space. Think about that for a second. Boredom is an ironic way to dismiss the human's potential to create from a restful space. So it's like shaming and blaming yourself for not being productive, not doing, but can you be rather than do? And it's funny because I think about romper room when I was a child. For those of you who are old enough to remember it, they would have this big circle and they'd be like, are you a good doobie? Doobie. Do be. Can you just be? Can you do the be instead of be the do? Can you be present? Can you give yourself grace and sacred space to recognize that you deserve to be able to be present with yourself? That when you feel that emptiness, that it's an opportunity, and to get excited and just allow rather than try to control, because that was the other thing. It's like, okay, so I wrote this. It's like shaming your inner child for not playing when it has all the space to come up with new and exciting ideas, adventures, and creations. That a void is this space and place of inner peace, neutral yet filled with potentiality. Mindfulness and meditation are key in allowing yourself to receive the inspiration, that spirit within, rather than trying to control or direct your mind and its thoughts. That's usually the hardest thing for most people, is like, oh, I can't not stop my thoughts. Well, you're not trying to stop your thoughts. You're overthinking, and then you're trying to stop, and you're fighting with yourself instead of just going, that's interesting. That's curious. Tell me more. Or maybe redirect it to the breath. You can go either way and it's going to benefit you. Because if you're asking yourself where the train of thoughts is going, if you're curious enough and you're observing it and you can actually question and confront it, it can turn into you working through something you didn't even realize you had to work through. That's been one of my biggest gifts, is being very confrontational with my thoughts and going, okay, what the heck is that about? Oh, we still have this issue, right? Okay, this is coming up. Okay, I'm glad it did. And I take a note of it. Meanwhile, some people, maybe you're an overthinker and you just don't know how to be present. So you use the thoughts to get out of the present moment. You have to discern and learn for yourself. The whole point of meditation is for you to get to know you, is for you to become more aware of the real you, the source within you, the into me I see, the intuition. So whenever you label yourself as being bored, you're copping out of, not coping, it is a coping mechanism. When you're labeling yourself as bored, you're actually copping out of being accountable, being present in the moment. Stop and think about that one. Oh, I'm just bored. Meaning, I don't want to be responsible for the fact that I have the ability to create something or do something even more powerful. Hi, Cheryl Ann. It's been a while. Mwah. So being present and being aware that boredom is not a curse. It's actually just a label that somebody created. Once again, the word spells boredom. It feels so heavy, doesn't it? It's like, oh, I'm bored. Like someone took a board and they just whacked you. Oh. The reality, boredom, is just telling you that you have something you're avoiding. Literally the void. You don't want to be present in the stillness of the place of creation. So what you avoid, you do create. If you fill it, you become the consumer, Yeah, if you're bored, you're boring. Not necessarily. Some of those people can be pretty entertaining too. When you claim to feel empty or you're avoiding something, and then you start consuming things to fill up that emptiness rather than recognizing that we're supposed to create from it, from the inside out, not the outside in, then you realize, wow, I got some work to do. Because if you're just a consumer, you're just filling it in because that's a comfort thing, then you're losing the actual opportunity to create. And that's where the shift happens. The moment you recognize, I think I'm bored, I need to do something, is an opportunity to realize, oh, maybe I need to be still and see what comes from within. Because that's where creation all originates, is from within, not from without. So when you go within, you know you're not going to go without. Go back to the source. You are the source. As within, sow the seeds out. Sow without. So it really is simple, yet we humans have made things a lot more complicated than they need to be. Listen, I'm reaching 50 this summer. Don't feel it, just a number. But I'm over here realizing, you know what? Life is actually pretty comical. It's pretty fun now. I'm in a space where I'm like, okay, it's comedy. It's a divine comedy. If you're bored, that's a perfect time to meditate. Exactly. Take out a journal and write, whatever it is. Or maybe get creative if you're really that way. Because the one thing I have found in all the years of doing writing and art and whatever it is that you can express yourself through, whatever medium, channeling, because we are all channels. Artists are channels. So we are all artists. You got a heart, you got art. Art is in the heart. It's in the word. When you channel that energy, you put it into focus, into creation. Again, this is creating from the void. You also receive the messages that come into you. You channel through what it is you're meant to do and what you need. So all it is a shift in mindset and a shift in focus. Hello, where attention goes, energy flows. The more present you can be, the bigger gift you will become and you will receive. So the key is in discernment, recognizing if you're creating a void by avoiding, from the lack of tuning into your creative nature by avoiding being present with that void where all of your real power and gifts come alive. Yeah, they're all your creations. It's a collective collaboration too. So there's the other thing. The irony is there's a stream of consciousness. That's how I have always imagined it. From that stream of consciousness, we get insights. Source, because it's not just external, it's also external, but it's an internal stream of consciousness. So it comes through us, it fuels, and it's the energy in flowing motion. That imagine that even if you don't act on what dropped in as an idea or an inspiration, a spontaneous, like, wow, let me do that. Somebody else will. So it is a collective collaboration. And when Source and Spirit wants to make it happen, it will stop with all the people that are receptive to receiving that inspiration. Hello, if you are in mindful meditation, you're giving Source an opportunity to flow. You're allowing yourself to be a channel. You're opening yourself to receiving. The more you're doing that, now the question is what are you going to do with it when you receive it? Because that's the next step, is actually, we can manifest without doing to a certain degree, but there is still action to be taken as well. You still need to go, oh, I need to leave the house and I need to go to this location according to like the different things that come and unfold within your receiving, your ability to allow yourself to receive the messages. It's all beautiful. It's all a gift. I'm going to repeat this though. The key is in discernment. Recognizing if you're creating the void, creating a void from the lack of tuning into your creative nature by avoiding being present with that void where all of your real power and gifts come alive. So it's like this internal wellspring. And literally, I'm going to say, I have people tell me all the time, you don't look your age and your skin's amazing and you look so youthful and vibrant. And I'm over here going, when you become peaceful within, it radiates out. There's no doubt. Am I trying harder? Actually, less. Is it effortless? Somewhat. It comes natural. The effortlessness is what comes natural versus trying to achieve. You allow yourself to receive. It's a whole shift. Energetically, it's emotional, it's spiritual, it's physical, it's mental, it's all of the things. At least that's been my experience. So, see, they got people to avoid themselves with media channeling and infiltration, filling them in with filling the void, with tell-lie visions and programming to look away from what's always been within, outsourcing their power rather than tapping into their internal resourceful power to create and be the superhuman they are. This is where people are waking up and recognizing something in the world has not been right. And anger is the first step, because guess what? It's on the scales of consciousness, and before anger shows you care. So the fact that people are getting angry is a huge sign that they're seeing the injustices. They're feeling things like anger's like really like, I've had it. I'm up to here. I'm full. Because your void has been filled with nonsense, with stuff that doesn't come natural to you. When you become angry, I mean, think about this. You've been filled in so much with the external sorcery, literally, receiving, allowing them to infiltrate, to fill you in, to fill in your empty space. And then you wonder why you're angry? Because it's not yours. Because it's not natural. And that the source has to come from within. When it comes from without, you go without. When it's an external, doesn't resonate, doesn't align with your heart and soul, all that's doing is telling you, it's time to wake up, Neo. The Matrix has been fucking with you. And the anger is just is you recognizing that you took on something that wasn't yours to begin with, that it wasn't even your original thought, that all the stuff, like the lies, whatever you want to call it, you were highly suggestible, and now your anger is towards yourself. You can say you're angry at the external, but you're angry because you allowed it. And that's where the forgiveness has to start within. Because God bless us, we have discernment. And that in order to trust again, we have to start with the trust within. Everything has to be turned back in and not turned out, because they got flipped upside down, inside out all around us. And that's the real, wow. But that's the reflection of what has been so under a spell. I mean, humanity's been under a spell for a very long time. At what point do we recognize, when did this shift? When did I realize? And how did I not see that? A lot of people are asking themselves that, how did I not notice that? How could I not know? I had to know. And so of course, the first thing when you get angry, you start questioning yourself, you start blaming and shaming yourself internally in the mind, because most of the times you're not talking about it out loud. A lot of times if you're angry externally, you're talking about all the things that were done to you. You're telling the victimhood story rather than recognizing, I'm really fucking pissed because I allowed them to get one over on me. But the reality is it was just, you didn't trust your instincts. You didn't trust your intuition. It's always there. It's whether or not you're tuning into it or turning it off and tuning it out. Are you suppressing it as opposed to letting it express itself so that it can guide you on your path? I mean, it's an internal job, but it's a physical sensation, and you do feel it. And what you feel is what is revealed. That is the clue. It is real, or you wouldn't feel. Just saying. So, but you can only ever know, and I like the word gnosis, this information, this truth about your resourceful power, the power within you, the source, the true source. By doing it, it's an inside job. You can only do it through practice. Repetition is the key to mastery. Practice makes progress. Not perfect. We're not here to be perfect. That's a whole shit show in itself. But truly, practice is what makes progress. And if you want to progress in your life, you have to practice. So when you do mindfulness practices, you embodiment practices, you tapping into your mind, your body, your heart, your spirit, your soul, your physical body, every cell of your being is on fleek, because that's really your whole GPS is right here. This is the temple, and the temple is always on like, okay, today I feel this. What is that telling me about myself? Or what am I feeling in the atmosphere? Is it something I need to, kind of like, I got to navigate this. You got to navigate. So you got to turn into your own GPS. No different than a computer, just saying. The more you're willing to go within, the sooner you'll stop going without. Resource. Return to source. Come back in. Stop going out. Turn and tune out the noise and the distractions as much as possible, especially when it has nothing to do with you. Look at the world that we live in today. We have access to more information that is nonsense and has nothing to do with us. It's purely entertainment. Again, it's purely distraction. But they need you to engage in it, to distract you, take you off your track. So you your track, your path. Because if they can distract you, they can infiltrate and influence you, and they convince you of what you should be doing versus what you would naturally gravitate with your heart and soul. So all of the news, northeast, west, south, is really there to influence. Again, the power of suggestion. How much of it is impacting you in your daily life? There are people that'll say, but I need to be informed. I need to know. FOMO, fear of missing out. But wouldn't your life be happier if you focused on the things that meant something to you? Your life has more meaning here now than out in the storyland. Because you don't know. A lot of stuff on the television turns out to be live vision. It's just lies. All the world's a stage. But when you tune into that, you tune out of this. You turn this off to turn that on, and that's outsourcing your power, is allowing something outside of you to take hold of you, to play off of your emotions, right? I love this one. Like, just because a company has a great tagline that plays off your emotions doesn't make it altruistic or righteous or even true. They're there to make a bottom line. It's money. So they have marketing. So whenever you are, hook, line, sinker, you fell for their line, they got you because they pulled on your heartstrings. And remember, these big corporations, their bottom line, they pay big money to convince you with targeted marketing based on psychology. None of this is new. None of it's new. Psychology is not a new field of study. In fact, everything about psychology is not novel. It's just people are realizing, basic psychology 101, cognitive dissonance, children, people who don't want to look at the truth, they want to look away, how to influence and win over people, things like that. How the colors and the frequencies and the energy and the vibration, they know. Energy, frequency, vibration, the secrets of the universe. It's all utilized in marketing and psychology. All they got to do is have the right frequency tone in the background, the right music setting, the right colors, and the whole layout. And then they've got you. They're pulling you in by your 5 senses. You're like really into it. You're experiencing it viscerally, physically. Don't think you're influenced? That's the biggest influence right there. So remember something though too. Within the void, what appears to be nothing, no thing, There exists everything. But you have no thing to compare it to, because the mind will try to go there. It'll be like, okay, there's nothing here. I feel like I'm empty. But in reality, everything's in there. It's a shift in mindset. The mind wants to compare it to something so that it can feel like it knows what's coming. That's the only reason most people have issues with sitting still and being present in the void and feeling empty and allowing themselves to receive and create from that space. That instead, while you're in the stillness of that void, that's what serves the pure potential within you. So that shift is going from no thing equals everything. Hard to believe, but true. You could use the Big Bang theory, even though, they're like, oh, there's just Big Bang and everything was created. Yeah, from the void. Kind of similar. I don't know. Did it make a noise? I don't know. No, were you there? We can only know if we were there. You need a witness. So whenever you feel a void, it's because you're meant to create from that void, not fill it. This is the difference between being a creator and being a consumer. Plant the intentional internal seed only. You're not there to control it. Do not muddy the space with the external influences. If anything, practicing energetic hygiene is key. What do I mean by that? It's also like your environment. You have to take accountability and be personally responsible for what you allow in your space, in your life. That's sacred. Make sacred. Sacrifice means to make sacred. Sometimes you need to sacrifice the people that have been sucking the life out of you, like a parasite or a vampire, to recognize how sacred you truly are. I know a lot of people are going through this. I know circles have been changing, and actually that's a beautiful thing. That sometimes when we wake up to the fact that maybe we were giving to people who just took and didn't reciprocate, didn't give back. My cup is running dry, yet someone's still trying to drink from it. And then meanwhile, it's like when your cup runneth over and then someone keeps pouring into it. And it's like, that's the way life is supposed to be. We give and we receive. We don't just give and someone takes, because that's not balanced. Energy is meant to stay in motion. Emotion. We are here to keep the energy moving and flowing. If it's not moving and flowing, then you're not growing. And yeah, sometimes it's comfortable and sometimes it's not. But the key is in being present to it, and being an awareness of that is beautiful. So it's a difference from being a creator rather than a mindless consumer. From the void, all is created. We don't need to fill it. Though our culture, cults of personality, have conditioned this addictive behavior. We're here to create. It's hard to teach someone that they do it to themselves because the ego gets in the way. And any one of you out there who've ever had someone say, you need to do this, what is the first thing that goes up? It's this big red flag in the flare of anger of like, how dare you tell me what I need to do? It's like nobody likes to be told what to do. So it's more like, are they willing to receive feedback? And you start to learn over time, I'm not here to fix anybody. I'm not here to change you. And the reality is people, when they're really fed up and they're ready to change, they will show up. The teacher will show up. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. We're not here to point other people's shit out. That's our egos too. I can see all sorts of shit, but if it's not requested of me, why am I going to waste my energy? Okay, so I see this one is doing that, and I see what direction it's going. Is that my business? No. My awareness does not make it my business. Ooh, that's a good one. Just because you can see something doesn't make it your business to get involved. You have to choose and recognize where it is actually requested of you versus you are imposing yourself. That's an imprint. That's an energetic karmic You create an energetic and karmic attachment when you do that. You're creating your misery, because a lot of times nobody really likes it when you point out their shit. Because it's almost like, first off, here's my example. Let's say somebody comes to you and they want to tell you all about what you should do and what's wrong and blah blah blah. But internally you already know this. So somebody else pointing it out is like a double whammy. If you're already beating yourself up in your own mind, like, I'm shitty, I'm doing all these shitty things, blah, blah, blah. And then somebody comes along and they reinforce that with their version of, hey, I see you're being shitty and this is what you need to do. And it's like, who the fuck are you? Get out of my face. Nobody likes that. And it's ego on both sides. It's ego because the mind likes to be right. It doesn't go along to get along. It goes to get right in its own mind. It's not there to get a heart connection. Yeah, it really goes back to the Ho'oponopono, which is a forgiveness for self. I'm sorry, please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. I'm sorry, please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. I'm sorry, please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. We say that prayer, that the Ho'oponopono isn't just for external, isn't for other people. Forgiveness is always for self. When we think we're forgiving another person, it is for us. We are actually doing it for ourselves, whether you intentionally think it's for yourself or not. Yummy, yummy, yummy. I've had to learn that lesson really, really bad. Really hard. Sometimes it's hard. And we choose our hard. That's really the key in life, is we get to choose our hard, or we can choose our peace. So I was finding that over the years, like even for myself, there would be times I was so excited about the things that I learned within myself that my inner child wanted to scream it through the rooftops. Oh my gosh, you have a problem. I know a good way to solve it. And it was genuinely from a good place. We always come from the place of like, I mean, you want to help, right? It's human nature to want to help people. And the inner child doesn't have like a filter that says, oh, they're not open to receiving it. And so throughout the course of my life, I've had to kind of calm her down to make her remember that not everybody's open to receiving. And so therefore, you have to be discerning. You have to recognize, how would you feel? And you can tell by body language. You can tell, a lot of times people just want people to listen to their story. And sometimes you can tell whether or not they're victims of their story, and that's part of their addictive nature, is they're keeping to the same story. They've told the story numerous times. After you've been around someone long enough, you can figure that out. That they just want an enabler. They don't actually want someone who guides them. But there comes a time in everybody's life that, you know what, I'm sick of my own shit. And of course, the hard way is doing the work on your own, which I can attest to. But it's always a test in the real world when you do the work at home or internally, or, you know, you take a bunch of courses. It's the application in life that different experiences will come up to test you, to poke you, to provoke you, and remind you, hey, did you learn your lesson? Remember that time when you did this because you got mad at that? Well, we're going to give you that again and see how you respond. Are you going to do the same thing? Because when you've been meditating long enough to observe the behaviors and the patterns of your past, then when it comes up again, when you really get it, you'll be like, oh, ooh, I remember how I used to respond to something like that. Wow, I've really come a long way, because right now I don't feel like doing that. I actually feel calm and at peace with myself. I feel full. So that doesn't bother me, you know? And then sometimes you have those last minute outbursts and blow ups, and you know, you have situations. And I've had those. I've had those over this past, especially like, I feel like I worked through so much with my dad this past 6 months, maybe 7 months. And I love my dad, I really do. And I just know my nature, and sometimes I have to get something off my chest. But it felt good to do it for myself. And it was never to, be mean or to attack or to blame anything or anybody. But it felt good for me to actually own the shit that I was feeling. And so that set in motion a whole series of change and shift in my life that I was like, wow, look at you. Look at you. You stood in your truth in a way that wasn't damaging, because I believe when you are honest and you come from a vulnerable place, your heart is ripped wide open, and you reveal your heart to someone, you tell them how you feel, that's intimacy. That is deepening the relationship you have with those people. I'm not saying you can do this with everybody. I'm not saying that everybody can hold you. I have to admit that over the course of my life, I've been told I'm intense. I don't know that I like the word intense. Growing up, I was told, "Oh, you've always seemed so serious." And I didn't think you were approachable, right? All these things. And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I'm a total goofball." If anybody who knows me, I'm a total goofball. I'm funny, silly. I'm like, not, honestly, joking, laughing, love, but I also love great deep conversations. Like, I'm not superfluous. I like to go below, deeper. I like to go to like, hey, let's have a real conversation about languaging, about what we can create, the excitement of life, the places we can visit, the things we haven't done yet. There's so much out there, and yet so many are still getting caught up with all the noise, the stuff that takes them out of their peace, literally takes a piece out of your peace and out of you. That we truly are the creators. We don't need to be the consumers of their shit. Literally, you don't consume shit. You won't end up in shit. Your life won't be a shit show. Again, it goes back to my monkey story about how we're a bunch of adults with unresolved traumas and unexpressed pains. And when we come in contact with other traumatized adults, we start acting like a bunch of monkeys, flinging our shit at one another, thinking, you gotta resolve my shit. How come you're not reading my mind? You're supposed to do this, even though none of it's communicated. It's the shit show, literally the shit show. I need to create a video with monkeys because it's just funny to me. And it's the best analogy, story, comparison that I could ever come up with, because it literally is the explanation for why life is a shit show for some people. And I had a shit show. I had several shit shows over the course of my life. And kind of comical looking back, going, wow, I'm humble enough to go, I own my shit. And if you own your shit, it won't own you. And it won't take you out. That's the point. So I want to remind you, if you're somebody who doesn't meditate, don't beat yourself up about it. Even if you're somebody who does something like yard work can be meditative. Why? Because it's single-minded focus. And when you are focused on one task, even drawing, painting, doing the dishes, any mundane activity can turn into a meditation. Because in that moment, you're focused on getting this one thing accomplished. And that's what meditation is single-minded focus. And when you're in meditation, that's how you show up for yourself and how we show up for others. To acknowledge the thoughts that play on repeat in our deep unconscious. I mean, come on. It's literally, this is the way subconscious programs and stories. It's like our thoughts are on a carousel. It's like, oh my gosh. Haven't you ever had a thought that you're like, oh, it's kind of like hearing a song and going, now I can't get that shit out of my head. Same thing. Same thing. Like, really? Really? Please stop. You turn on the radio you start looking for things rather than confronting and asking it, what is this about? So when that carousel ride of thoughts is going on in your head, or that song that you can't get out of your head, same scenario, how can you work with that? Find a way to confront it and to be like, oh, be curious like a child. Ask it questions. See what comes back. Where do you feel it in your body? What is that all about? This is familiar. Where did this come from? You got a message for me other than this crazy thought? Where are you going with this? You got to unravel it. You got to be willing to like be present with it. That's what meditation is. The more you're present with it, the more it recognizes, oh, you do see me. You are acknowledging me. Let me tell you something. Think about it. That which you suppress wants to express, not repress. It is there for you. Every message, every thought you have is something for you to deepen your relationship to your heart and soul. It all serves. Even if it's a thought that maybe doesn't belong to you and you're like, well, where'd that come from? If you ask it, you'll find out. But see, most people don't want to sit in stillness because of the fear of repressed shame and guilt around hidden traumas, around your pains. And I get that. Because you're ashamed of these times in your past, but in reality, the more you own it, it won't own you. And so therefore, what do you have to be ashamed of if you yourself don't feel ashamed of it? Other people are not going to shame you for something. They can't shame you for something that you're unashamed about. That when you acknowledge it and own it, it's not your shit show. You're not holding on to any shit. You're not repressing any shit. You brought it out into the light. You show you, oh, hey, you know, I'm so sorry. Let me embrace you. Because here's the thing. What I was, oh gosh, where did I write that? Oh, yeah. So like everything's a story. Everything is a story. The more you confront the story, the more it unfolds. That which you bring into the light can no longer linger in the darkness, nor hold any illusory power over you when you confront it and address it. So it's like calling out the boogeyman. You know, we all got a boogeyman there somewhere. And realizing he's just a fluffy puppy, cute little puppy. And all he wants is a little attention. You can't help but not want to embrace it rather than reject it. And most of the pains and the traumas that we avoid are really our hurt inner child. Our hurt inner child's the one that's over there going, we feel ashamed, and all we need is you to recognize and to like embrace us, to make us feel okay. Like when we talk about my parents didn't do this for me and I needed this and I needed that, they didn't show up for me. When in reality, as an adult, you have the opportunity to become the parent to yourself. That's what we call reparenting. Yeah. It's all about rewriting our story. That everything's a story. And so whenever story you're telling, ask yourself if it's empowering or disempowering. There's opportunity in the story because whenever you label something, you label yourself, you know, whatever, or the story, it's a victimhood mindset. We're telling a story to validate how we feel or to even try to make sense of something that's still unresolved. You got to be accountable and present in the moment and recognize, oh, that's just a story. Do I want that story to continue? Am I going to continue to perpetuate that story? Am I going to perpetuate the spell with the story I tell? Am I going to continue down this spiraling, oh my gosh, this is so familiar, I keep going through this over and over again. This is the definition of crazy. Woohoo! Doing the same thing over and over again, and expecting a different result. Until you make a change, change won't happen. Shift happens when you decide to make a change. You know, it's a holy shift. So some questions you can ask yourself. I put together some questions. I can send it to you if you'd like. What's a story underlying my need to shame myself into needing to be active or productive in this moment that I'm calling it bored? Because even underlying that label of being bored, you're reinforcing a story, a belief system that boredom is bad, that being still and having nothing to do means you need to be doing something. It's this fighting with yourself. I want to relax, but you don't feel relaxed because you feel like you need to do. I can't be because of. You got to trace it back to the root cause. Where did the story originate? Who is the voice you hear in your head? What's my story around what productivity looks like? What's my story around why I believe boredom is bad? What's wrong with being present? And am I afraid of something in the space of inactivity? Why? Why? And you just keep asking yourself these things, and you can write these key things down and journal and see what comes out. Do you realize this is just discomfort just because you haven't allowed yourself to sit in this space and be? Because it's unfamiliar. This discomfort is only unfamiliar because you have a story that says I should be a certain way, and it's not that. It's not this being bored. What's the story that shames boredom or inactivity? Where did it originate? What if I allowed myself to be all right with this discomfort, the unfamiliar? Just be. And how can I embrace this time and allow it to serve me better, rather than trying to get away from myself? There you go. Because that's what happens. The discomfort causes you to want to run away from being present with it. But there's only discomfort because it's unfamiliar. And there is a fear underlying the discomfort, and you just need to get to it. You need to confront it. You need to question it. You need to get out of your own head and feel. Because it's all about the embodiment. It's the mindfulness and the embodiment that brings you back to your intuitive nature, to the source, to the power within you. All of these programs, all of these belief systems, they're just things that we have clung on to because that's all we know. And really unpacking that baggage is the way to unlocking the keys, frequencies, frequent keys that unlock our ciphers and our codes and bring us back to our truth. To look at that. I'm a powerful being. I'm a master manifester. That what I planted a seed in the void, I created something bigger, rather than tried to fill the void with something outside of myself. Any questions? Was that enough information for today? Whew. This is where I have been this week, is sitting. No, I haven't been sitting. I've been busy, but it's really, for me, it really is about recognizing word spells and learning how they've taught us to use their terms under these color of law that reinforces and spell casts. They're spells that they cast upon us from the moment we're born. You know, don't assume, look up the actual meanings of words, like really start researching. When you hear a word, really listen to the word when you say it. Realize, realize. There's duplicity in all words. There's undertones and hidden meanings and things, and we don't even realize that we've been reinforcing spells that were cast upon us, because that's how we were programmed with the education indoctrination system, depending on where you're from and how you were raised. Did you have parents that encouraged you to read, or just regurgitate, at schools? Programmed to memorize. Remember that? We're supposed to memorize everything. Why would we need to memorize? There's tricks and ways to remember things. You don't have to, most of the information they wanted you to memorize was using up brain cells that could have been utilized for something more important. Yeah. Life is neutral. It's us humans that have a mind that wants to control everything. Yeah. I got so much more I want to share. I really just wanted to get to the root cause of a lot of boredom, and it's not just boredom. It really is. It's whenever people have trouble confronting areas of their lives that, quite frankly, they are ashamed of. They blame themselves, or that the past 4+ years of being told you should behave a certain way and think of other people, and then in waking up and going, wait a minute, who's going to think of me? Like, you just pulled a whole Jedi mind trick on us, and it's not right, and these things that happen, and this was a travesty and such crimes against humanity in such a way that the idea that you're not relevant, but you do, as human nature is, you have the desire to give back, to contribute to society, to be, a contributor in such a way that you have to feel you have purpose. And that so many people literally felt sucker punched. You know why people don't want to work right now? It's because they feel like they were told they had no relevance, and that they don't feel like they have something to contribute because they got it taken away from them in their minds. It's not the case. It's just that not everybody had the resilience and the nervous system to be able to turn around and to alchemize the situation and turn it into their own form of gold. Like, okay, so I have all this extra time. How did you fill that time? How did you utilize that time? Did you sit and twiddle your thumbs? Did you watch Netflix? Did you fill the void? Or did you create from the void? Because that's really what the question is right now in humanity, to me, is recognizing that you are the creator, not the consumer. We're here to contribute to society, to contribute to one another, to be each other's, brother keeper. And if we're not doing that, then yes, we're going to feel a void. If we're filling the void, we're going to feel continuous void. And it keeps this perpetual cycle of avoidance. Avoidance. It's avoidance behavior. The more you fill it with the emptiness of the external noise, the more you feel a void because of the avoidance of creating from the void. We are powerful manifestors and creators. It's time we turn around and recognize that it's in the void we create the spark, and we create from that place. Stop filling the void with things that are meaningless. This is the key. This is what I wanted to share. Hopefully that in some way that strikes a chord in some one of you that is meant to make some beautiful music. Again, we're all energy, vibration, frequency, and we are each other's codes, keys, frequent keys, unlocking each other's codes and ciphers. Beautiful souls, I love you all. From my heart to yours. Remember, go out into the world, be fruitful, prosper, create, contribute, show the beautiful you. Mwah, mwah, mwah. I love you.